For the UFC's April pay-per-view event, a big welterweight showdown appears to be in the cards. Two powerhouses are going against each other, and both fighters' striking and wrestling skills will be tested to the limit. Is Khamzat Chimaev the monster everyone thinks he is, or will he be humbled by Gilbert Burns himself? Keep watching because here's everything you need to know about the upcoming main card. First up, Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. According to insiders, the fight between Chimaev and Burns has been planned for a long time and was finally proposed this month. Chimaev's visa permission was a potential stumbling point, but the undefeated boxer came to Instagram on Wednesday to announce that he is in Las Vegas and that the fight is on track. That's not all he said, as Bors has told Durinho that he's in serious trouble now that he's landed in the United States. Chimaev is probably in the US to train at the UFC's Performance Institute ahead of their April 9th welterweight bout. Burns fought back after being stopped by Kamaru Usman in his debut title bout at UFC 258, winning a unanimous decision over Stephen Thompson at UFC 264 in July. In MMA Fighting's global rankings, the number 4 ranked fighter has won 7 of his 8 fights. On the other hand, Chimaev has been a one-man demolition crew since joining the promotion. He won all 4 of his fights in under 2 rounds. At UFC 267 this past October, the number 10 welterweight in MMA Fighting's global rankings returned after a 13-month absence and steamrolled Li Jinliang en route to a first-round submission. Next, a card definitely worth watching. Chimaev typically works with Alexander Gustafsson and Ilir Latifi at Stockholm's All-Star Training Center, but the Chechen-born fighter appears to have migrated to the United States to prepare for number 4 ranked welterweight and former UFC Championship challenger Burns. According to Dana White, the welterweight contest will be included on the UFC 273 main card, which will take place next month, April 9th, at V-Star Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. UFC 273 will feature a featherweight title battle between Alexander Volkanovski and Chen Sung-Yung, as well as a rematch between Aljamain Sterling and interim champion Peter Yan for the bantamweight title. Up next, Michael Pereira has some strong opinions about Khamzat Chimaev. Pereira highlighted the buzz around the Chechen fighter, who has won 4 in a row under the UFC banner. On this week's episode of MMA Fighting's Portuguese-language podcast, Trocação Franca. Since July 2020, Chimaev has dominated every single one of his opponents in one-sided fights, and he's opened as a 3-1 favorite against Burns. Pereira doesn't think Chimaev's the monster that people have made him out to be, and he fully believes that fans will see the real Chimaev in the Durinho fight. Pereira also confessed something big, that fighters actually saw the real Bors and believed that he wasn't all that better than Burns, even though he was surprising and spontaneous. He did think that Chimaev was talented, but also acknowledged the fact that he hasn't yet competed against the best. Pereira was curious to see if he's the man that will take on Durinho, as he didn't believe there's as much risk as many claim. Now, more on what Pereira said. Pereira admitted how Chimaev had great wrestling skills, but thought his striking was overhyped. He also said how wrestling was one of the best weapons in the MMA, and Khamzat had been wrestling since he was a kid. Chimaev's style of going crazy and ending the fight as soon as possible wasn't Pereira's style, as he liked to put on a show for the fans. Pereira also made it pretty clear that whenever it was his turn to fight Bors, he was ready, and he wasn't scared of the Chechen fighter. Pereira further gave an example of Islam Makhachev, who also has strong wrestling skills, but isn't so great on his feet. Respect should be given where it's due, though, as the Russians are known for how dominating their ground game is. Pereira himself has won 3 of his last 4 UFC fights, including decisions over Andre Fialho, Nico Price, and Chaos Williams, as well as a submission against Zelim Imadev. Pereira has knocked out 10 opponents and tapped 7 others in his 40-fight career, spanning back to 2011, and says he has enough faith in his wrestling versus Chimaev or any other top-ranked wrestler. Next, more on the much-anticipated fight and the fighters that'll make it happen. Chimaev, who has a professional record of 10-0, made his UFC debut against John Phillips, winning by second-round submission. 10 days later, he returned to the octagon and defeated Rhys McKee in under 4 minutes. In less than a month, Chimaev was back in action, stopping Gerald Meerschaert in just 17 seconds. The Chechen welterweight walked right through Li Jinliang in Abu Dhabi for another stoppage victory after a year out due to a COVID-19 bout. Burns, a jiu-jitsu specialist who has evolved into a well-rounded MMA fighter, won huge fights over Tyrone Woodley, Demian Maia, and Gunnar Nelson on his route to the 170-pound title, but fell short against UFC king Kamaru Usman. Durinho bounced back in July with a decision victory over Stephen Thompson. Up next, Gilbert Burns wants to test Khamzat Chimaev. Gilbert Burns has revealed that he has asked for a 5-round fight with Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 273 and is waiting for the suggested contract from the UFC. Burns wants to teach Chimaev a lesson that Li Jinliang and Gerald Meerschaert never could. Chimaev has won all 4 of his UFC fights by first or second round stoppage. Burns may be hoping to defeat Chimaev on April 9th, but Burns is already planning a fight against one of Colby Covington or Jorge Masvidal as a #1 contender. Next, Conor McGregor insults Islam Makhachev and his fighting style. Much has been said about when, where, and who Conor McGregor will fight when he returns to the ring in 2022. While it appears that McGregor, with a record of 22-6 in the MMA and 10-4 in UFC, will never fight his longtime rival Khabib Nurmagomedov again, he said in a tweet on Friday that he's open to fighting the next closest opponent, Islam Makhachev, with a record of 22-1 in the MMA and 11-1 in the UFC. Conor McGregor has some pretty harsh words about Makhachev, calling him a shit stain and how beating him would be no big deal. McGregor thought Islam's ground and pound was embarrassing, and if McGregor had pounded someone on the ground, they wouldn't have been able to get up again. He also found it embarrassing how Makhachev refused to take the fight with Rafael dos Anjos, especially after mouthing him off. Makhachev, 30 years old, made his return to the octagon on Saturday, defeating short-notice substitute Bobby Green by ground and pound in the first round at UFC Fight Night 202. Makhachev now has a 10-match winning streak, which includes wins over Green, Dan Hooker, Thiago Moises, and Arman Tsarukyan. Makhachev was questioned about a possible rematch with McGregor after his victory on Saturday, and he put out his requirements. McGregor would have to beat someone first, as Makhachev can't remember when the former champ did that last. Since the beginning of 2017, McGregor, 33 years old, has only contested 4 times. During that time, he went 1-3, with 2 losses to Poirier and 1 to Khabib Nurmagomedov. But it hasn't stopped the most popular pay-per-view event in MMA history from vying for the title. McGregor, who injured his leg against Dustin Poirier in July 2021 and is currently in the last phases of recovery, hopes to return in July 2022. Lastly, grudge match deets for UFC 272. Security guards kept Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington back at the UFC 272 weigh-ins, with both fighters firing parting verbal jabs before coming to blows in the octagon on Sunday. Both fighters made weight for the welterweight fight, weighing in at 170.5 pounds each. Masvidal took the stage with Paulino Hernandez, an American top-team coach, and one of the key reasons for the animosity between him and Covington. Before stepping onto the scales, the BMF champion appeared cool, calm, and collected, while Covington cupped his ear to the audience and appeared to make a lot of noise. Dana White, the UFC president, arrived prepared with lots of security to ensure the two didn't come to blows before their planned fight, but both were spewing plenty of obscenities before Covington was escorted to the other side of the platform. Commentator Joe Rogan, who was absent from the previous UFC pay-per-view due to a schedule conflict, asked Masvidal how it felt to battle a bitter rival, to which Masvidal answered with an expletive-laden outburst. "This guy is a bitch, man," Covington continued, noting that he isn't a bitter rival. Rogan then handed over Covington the microphone for the right of reply, in which the former welterweight interim champion said that he sent Masvidal to the electric chair before bizarrely calling out NBA superstar LeBron James. But first, Covington paid tribute to Rogan, returning to the commentary desk for the card. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on UFC 272 and the matchup between Chimaev and Burns? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.